This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast. Here are your hosts, Graham and Jocelyn.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Kicking and Streaming Podcast. My name is Graham, and with me today is the absolutely fantastic, who today, by the way, is the very exclusive Aunt Jojo. Hello, Jojo. You thought I wasn't going to do it.
Howdy do.
Jojo, I'm doing fine. How about yourself? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I had a long, rough week, but today's a good day. So got some young blood. So things are happy.
The little folks are around.
Yes.
And Jojo is on duty.
Yes. Specifically, oh boy, Uncle Jeff is on duty. But but during this production. They love him more than they love me anyway, so it's okay. It's good.
Today we are discussing the movie Judas and the Black Messiah. Judas and the Black Messiah is the first movie that we had an opportunity actually to attend a virtual screening of. And I immediately thought, this is an absolutely remarkable movie. And one of the things that makes it remarkable is because the director of this movie, Shaka King, decided to do this project, but he was actually so disenchanted before that, he wanted to stop making movies altogether. And meanwhile, his greatest project probably was around the corner. What do you say, Jojo?
Yeah. I think it's funny that seems to happen sometimes to very talented people. It's one of those I'm not doing this anymore. I'm throwing in the towel, and then something fabulous happens next and proves to them that no, we still need you. Come back.
Yeah, yes. And I'm happy for him, but also I'm happy for the reception that this movie has gotten. I think it's a movie that is fitting for the time, and it reflects upon, makes us understand why movements that are alive today, that are spurred on as a result of racial injustices, are still looked upon as pretty much the same way that the Black Panther was looked upon. Having said that, this is not necessarily a movie about the Black Panthers. It's not necessarily a movie about Fred Hampton, as a matter of fact. It's the story of how Fred Hampton got betrayed. But this is not a biopic of Fred Hampton. And I felt like I've always felt obligated to say that. In that case, Jojo, would you like to take the floor and synopsize this movie for us?
I will do my best. I feel woefully inept at this one, and but I will try my best. So
you got this, Jojo. You got this.
So this is the story of the Black Panther movement, but also mainly about, as we have in the title, Judas, the story of Judas, of Bill O'Neill, who infiltrates the Black Panther Party through the help of the FBI. And it is the story of his struggle to, I think, beginning to think that at first he was helping the quote unquote good guys, and then realizing that this was completely different than what he thought it was. It's the story of his soul searching. It's the story behind what really happens when you sell your soul and what you believe in for material things, for selfish reasons.
So let me, again, I do this all the time. What do you think of this movie, Jojo?
This movie it's a phenomenal movie, and it is so it made me feel woefully inadequate with anything that I know about anything, frankly, which is a good thing. I'm happy about that because I don't want to feel like, oh yeah, I knew that. I knew that. This is a movie that made me want to and begin to do some more research and read some more things and try to understand more about the story behind the movie, the story about all the people involved, about J. Edgar Hoover and the Black Panthers and the different players in this story. So for me, this movie, like I said, made me feel like an idiot. But I'm happy for that, and I am happy to have the opportunity to live in a time where I can find the information and read about what's going on or watch documentaries or whatever. I have a lot of media available to learn more about this. But the movie itself is phenomenal. The acting, the performances are phenomenal, and the story is such an incredibly human story, a real discussion of the trouble of the human condition and our what happens when we compromise ourselves.
So here's the thing, Jojo. I love this movie because, like you said, it is a little bit more complicated than that. Even though the title is like strictly black and white in the sense that Judas and the Black Messiah. So you know that there is a Messiah and you know that there is a Judas. But at the end of the day, when you watch the movie, you have to start pondering right now. Okay, so what happened, and was Bill O'Neill really a bad guy? Did he really sell out Fred Hampton? Um, there is the whole history of who provoked who, and how did we end up here. Was in fact, you have to ask yourself, was the Black Panther movement actually as violent prone, sorry, as his recent history seemed to depict it?
Yes.
All of this you learn. And by the way, this is slightly fictionalized, but it's pretty close to reality because it's recent history and there's not a lot that you can deviate from that, is there, Jojo?
No, it's very true. It's recent history. It's recent enough that there is news footage of some of these events. There are survivors. There's still people alive that were there and saw it with their own eyes that can talk about it. This one is not as easy to sweep under the carpet or whitewash or whatever term you want to use, because there are still people who will happily talk to you about, no, this is what actually went down. There's a good article in the Smithsonian Magazine online about the story behind it, and they really get into the dramatization, the things that did and didn't happen, and I think it's a good article and kind of a good jumping off point for learning more about the real live players in this movie.
And so let's talk about some of the elements here. So Fred Hampton, at the time he was assassinated, he was 21 years old.
That's so mind-boggling. That's so 21.
Yeah.
That's like one of those things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Know. It makes you think, what the fuck did I do with my life?
Think about how the mighty U.S. government was so afraid, so rattled by a 21-year-old black activist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very telling for all of us. It's something that we all need to be aware of, that if the government deems you a threat, you are going to be taken out. And it really doesn't matter what you are, who you are, or what you think you stand for. it can turn on a dime. It can turn on the flip of a coin, and you can be deemed a threat and taken out. And if you think that they won't do that, you're crazy.
Yeah. That's on you, my friend.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Bill O'Neill, because I feel like this is a character that needs to be studied a bit more, and you cannot just oversimplify this character. And by the way, the breakout star in this movie is Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith Stanfield, I don't know. He might be an actor that you've never heard of prominently featured. He's been around, but Lakeith Stanfield steals all the scenes in this movie. And I know that the movie has some nominations, and Daniel Kaluuya has some nominations for his portrayal of Fred Hampton. But yeah, we should look very seriously at Lakeith Stanfield, because the man is an absolutely fantastic actor, isn't he?
He is fantastic. I first really saw him in something when he was in Get Out. And then he was also in Knives Out in a small part, but he brought so much to the small part that I was like, what is he doing? Why are they wasting him on this small part? Because he's such a fabulous actor. But he was perfect in the small part. Like I'm glad that he was in that part, because he brought so much to it. But in this movie, as you said, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah. So when you think about the character of Bill O'Neill, I like the fact that they call it Judas in the Black Messiah. But also, there are some incredible parallels, because you have to ask yourself, does he deserve to be called Judas? And if you know the situation, the circumstances of real Judas Iscariot versus Bill O'Neill, who in this case is called Judas, you will see those parallels, right?
Yes.
So we've been educated to believe that Judas sold Jesus out because, he just liked money and he was a bad guy. There's always a bad apple. But if you go a bit further into theology, if you go a little bit further into history, you will see that Judas really was just a disappointed disciple.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because everybody had a different idea of who and what the Messiah would be. And in Judas' mind, the Messiah was going to be a revolutionary, some dude that was going to come around with guns ablaze and fucking save the people from the Roman Empire. And he slowly started to discover that Jesus was not about that life. Right?
Right.
And so because he realized, man, I'm wasting my time with this nigga, just, putting his hand on lepers and shit and giving people fishing bread. That's not the kind of Messiah I was looking for. So this nigga's an imposter. So the first opportunity I get, fuck him. Right? So here you see disappointment. You see a reasoning. You understand. You get to understand what was going on, Judas' state of mind, when you analyze why he became a traitor, why he sold Jesus out, right? But in the case of Bill O'Neill, was that what was going on here? I don't think so. I don't think the case is that clear, is it?
No, I don't think so either. And I think the the case of Judas Iscariot is, I think the ending of his story is proof enough of the way he actually felt about what he did, if that makes sense. Right. So and there's correlations there with Bill O'Neill. You can't just say, Of course, Judas, the name Judas has a terrible connotation now
Right.
as just a word.
Right.
But when you look at the person, it's somebody who was, as you said, was disillusioned, was tempted, and realized that he'd done a horrible thing and never forgave himself for it. And it's a very, I hate to say simple, but it isn't simple. It's a human nature story,
Yes.
and very much the way that we are as human beings, and a demonstration of that. And I think that this movie also brings that to light in the sense of how much soul searching that you do, and then when you realize that you've probably done the wrong thing, and a really bad wrong thing, what that actually does to us as human beings, to our psyches.
Yes. And so in the case of Bill O'Neill, for instance, we know that the whole thing was about Bill O'Neill saving Bill O'Neill, right? I don't know. First of all, I don't think that from the very beginning he knew what was the ultimate plan with Fred Hampton. That I don't know that he knew that there was a plot to actually kill him. He learns that. He learns of that. And from that moment on, he's like, yo, if that's what y'all want to do, then I'm out.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the government would have let him in on that plot until very close to its fruition, because they would have wanted to be, sure of his loyalty or whatever. So I don't believe that he knew that.
And you have to see how sinister J. Edgar Hoover was. And as a matter of fact, from thanks to this movie, a lot of people have renewed the calls for J. Edgar Hoover's name to be removed from the FBI headquarters.
It really needs to be, because he was a foul individual.
He was a historically foul, racist, absolutely bad faith actor. And he was one of those people that no one liked.
Yeah,
nobody liked.
Yeah, and not in the sense of, oh, I don't like you because you're a taskmaster or whatever. I don't like you because you are awful. You are an abomination of a human being, and I'm not even sure you have the right to call yourself a human. You might just be dirt.
Yeah.
So that might be an insult to dirt.
Just to give you an idea of who J. Edgar Hoover was, J. Edgar Hoover sort of founded the FBI and died as the FBI director. And the way he managed to do that is because he managed to compile a file on every person running for president in the United States. Any person, any candidate who made it to past their primary of their parties and became the nominee for their party, J. Edgar Hoover managed to get a file on you of anything that could be compromising. And then if you finally won the presidency, the moment he met with you, he would suddenly sort of make you understand, you're not planning on kicking me out, right? Because I have shit on you. And it wasn't a threat, because it's sort of like how the mob would come to you and say, this is a nice restaurant you got in here. It would be a shame if something happened to it. That was J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes. Yes, and total interest only in himself and his agenda. So who knows how many deaths he's responsible for, ultimately, how much blood he has on his hands.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that, if there is an afterlife, he probably is chilling up there with Hitler and whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no way in hell. He's not in hell.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in that bullshit.
Agreed.
All right, so let's talk about the cast a little bit here. So Daniel Kaluuya, I have to say, he's magnificent on this one. He is Fred Hampton. if you look at the archives, if you look at all the footage and stuff, he studied this character and he did it.
Yeah. He is an actor that I am a huge fan of. I enjoyed his experience, his performance in Get Out. I enjoyed him in Sicario. He's just everything he's ever been in has been very, very, very good. He puts in a great performance, and I look forward to seeing him on screen.
Oh yes, he's doing it, and I even still I still believe that he's a bit underrated.
I agree. I don't feel like people talk about him as much, but
Yeah.
they need to because he's great.
He's marvelous. I like that they paired him with Dominique Fishback, and you and I we've talked about Dominique Fishback. We're kind of like sort of like the founders of Dominique Fishback's fan club.
Yeah.
She is such a fantastic little actress. I love this girl, man.
Yes. She's marvelous. She really, really is.
Before we talk about Lakeith Stanfield, who we've talked about a bit already, what do you think of Jesse Plemons, man? He kind of played this character way too well.
He is an actor that I see him called all the time, and I think this is cruel. But Fat Matt Damon. And I just, that bothers me because I know that actors are, it is about
That's
how you
wrong.
look, but it's just that's wrong. But I think that he is very underrated. He's been in many, many things, and there's an episode of Black Mirror that he's in that he is so creepy, and so he takes the character from being just this sort of innocuous sort of just a dude to this unbelievably maniacal, terrifying thing. And he's so good at it, and you don't expect it from him. And I hate it because part of it is because he's got these like chubby little cheeks,
Exactly.
and he just looks so sweet and like out of time or something. I don't know, but he's a great actor. He really is, and I guess he has his niche as a character actor, but he was good in this, and I was sort of surprised to see him cast. I don't know why. I was expecting a different sort of person to be cast, a different sort of actor, but he was very, very good in this, and I always enjoy his performances.
That role was made for him, though. My
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, once I saw him in it, it was just kind of a head tilt thing. When I read about it, I was like, huh, okay.
He was a conniving, badass dude, man. He the way he cornered, William O'Neill to get him what he wanted. And the moment he actually had like I'm done being, playing the good guy with you. Now I'm gonna show you what kind of motherfucker I am. He did.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And I think that's when Bill O'Neill started to feel, wow, this is it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
What do you think about Martin Sheen in the character of J. Edgar Hoover? I felt it was a bit too plastified.
Yeah, I have problems when they use a huge amount of prosthetics and makeup and things, and it's very obvious.
Yeah.
I feel like if they were going to do that, to use a less well-known actor, because I know what Martin Sheen looks like and what he's supposed to look like, and having that was jarring for me. I couldn't really pay much attention to his performance. I was more focused on the prosthetics. I feel like if they picked a less well-known actor and used prosthetics, that maybe that wouldn't have been as jarring, and it would have come through better. I don't know. Or maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, that sometimes they cast actors to play certain characters that it doesn't necessarily have to be a famous one. And so the fact that they cast Martin Sheen, and then they had to so heavily use prosthetics. It's distracting. You know, it's Martin Sheen. He doesn't even look really like J. Edgar Hoover in the end, and it's just that it's just like a bad acting. I don't know whatever, dude. Like I I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I agree. I think either don't use prosthetics, just let the actor act however they think, and have the performance be the impersonation as opposed to the
Yeah,
prosthetics. Or if you really want somebody that looks like him, find an actor that looks like him.
yeah. Finally, let's go back to the men of the hour. I think somebody must have decided already that Lakeith Stanfield is an actor that need to be seriously looked at and considered for every serious role out there that they may have passed on. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I hope that this skyrockets his career. I hope that he gets all the things, because he is so good. He is so watchable, and so watching his face and watching the way that he can portray emotions so delicately, he
Yes.
is a phenomenal actor, and criminally underrated, and
Yes.
deserves to be in all the things.
So let me ask you this, Jojo. So some of the complaints that people have is that this movie is more sort of like glorifying a snitch as opposed to being a biopic on Fred Hampton. What do you think about this complaint? Because I don't see it. I don't understand it. Like
I
like why not tell the story of Judah as opposed, because like that of Jesus Christ has been told so in so many languages in so many times. Why can why can't we tell the story of Judah?
Yeah, I understand what people are trying to say. I think in the fact that they only want to hear about the good guy as opposed to the villain. But I think that this gives you an insight into everything that was going on that is impossible to have if you don't have the story of the person who was playing both sides, if you will. He played both sides and paid the consequences for doing that. And I think that it's a story that really helps. It's a way of telling the story that really helps you have a lot of insight into everything that was going on. I don't think it glorifies him in the slightest. I don't think it makes him, the hero of the story or anything like that. I think it is just a very important breakdown of the human condition, and of what happened to bring down, um, the movement, and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So I think that's an important part of the story that needs to be told. If you only focus on the pure and the true, you lose a lot of perspective and facets of the story. So I think I understand what people are trying to say, but I don't think it's a valid complaint. And I mean, if they want to tell the story of Mr. Hampton, then make a movie about him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you can't find the book that you're looking for, write it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think also the last thing I'd like to say about Bill O'Neill is that one of the things that guilt will do to you is it makes you tell yourself a story that's good enough for you to stay alive.
Yes.
And there are footage of an interview towards the end of the movie that Bill O'Neill gave, where the last question he was asked was, "What would you like, you know, your kid to think about you for what you did. And he gave a very poignant answer, something that you could tell that he had rehearsed in his head for a long time, and it came out perfectly and it made sense. But meanwhile, on the night that that interview was broadcast, he committed suicide. So, um, it's aptly titled Judas and the Black Messiah. But I did want to show that there were some differences in the circumstances under which each one of these two individuals, one that perhaps is fictional and one not, found themselves before they betrayed their so-called Messiah. Jojo, what are your last words on this movie?
I think that everybody should watch it. If you're on the fence about watching it, watch it. And if it calls to you to do some research and some reading, and if it has some correlations with you with what's going on in today's world and environment, start educating yourself, start reading, start learning, and find out. But if you're on the fence, watch the movie. Watch it.
Yes. And with that, we want to thank you for listening today. And we would like to invite you to, if you listen to us on any of those apps, especially if it's Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us a little quick review. And also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. You can find Jocelyn on Instagram when she comes back to posting on it.
I'm Jocelyn Podcast.
And I am Mr. Puzzetta. That is MrPuzzetta. MrPuzzetta. On this beautiful day that you listen to this podcast, this is goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast. If you found value in our content, please subscribe and share. We would also be delighted to hear what you think of this podcast. So please rate us by writing a quick review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all major social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Join the conversation happening today on our Facebook group.